Okay then guys, we're back in Outriders after a very long time, as the game is now well over a year old, and I know it seems like a lot longer than that. But we have got the release of Worldslayer. If you guys have pre-ordered, you have got the access to it today, and we are going to be enjoying it. Now, what I am going to tell you inside of this video is basically the minimalistic versions of things. We are going to go more in depth, and I've got a few live streams planned throughout the week where we are going to break down different areas of the end game and stuff like that. Now, I have got very strict sort of guidelines on what it is that I can cover inside of this video, mainly because we are Outriders ambassadors. We did get hands-on time, and they do want to keep some of the game sacred and enjoyable for you guys to play first time, which I completely agree with and 100% respect. So what we are going to do today is go into the details of whether this game is even worth buying for you guys who enjoyed or did not enjoy the first segment of the Outriders saga. With that being said, if you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It would be greatly appreciated. And let's get into Outriders Worldslayer. So starting off, I will state that gameplay will be minimalistic inside of this video, and I can do nothing but apologize. Unfortunately, the only access that we had to this game was via PC, and my PC is, although good, not amazing, and did not really get much gameplay from it. Although, what we will state is that in the time that we actually got inside of this game, there were a lot of red flags and a lot of really high key points that I really did enjoy. First of all, based on the things that I find were really good, the game is so much smoother now. So if you ever left the game on the basis that the game was buggy, laggy, rubber bandy, issues like that, well, I don't think you should have that issue anymore, as my PC is not the best going, and it still ran extremely smoothly on a medium set inside. As for console, we're yet to know exactly where that's at, but we will find out later on today, and I will bring obviously any news that comes out with regards to this. You guys know me, transparent as hell. Now, going into the campaign is anything from 3 to 5 hours long, depending on how it is that you approach it and how many people you go in with, but I managed to get through the campaign in roughly around 4 hours. This was a very enjoyable experience, and as always, the Outriders campaign storyline was actually pretty damn good, although would have kind of hoped for a bit of a longer storyline process. I reckon a couple of more hours would have really tainted the fuzz that I wanted from the storyline, as I do know that they have revolved a lot of this game as far as the DLC goes with the end game and the way that you kind of loop in cycle around the loot at the end of it. I feel like they kind of let that slip a little bit in the campaign, so as much as it was fun and enjoyable, feel like they could have reached in a little bit deeper and kind of brought a little bit more out of the pocket. But as an overall, the experience was enjoyable, and I did have a lot of fun with it. And this leads on to whether your characters are going to be a viable option or not going into the storyline. Build mechanics are actually one of the biggest things that revolve around this game, and for me personally, the build mechanics were kind of no different inside of here, although they did really alter a lot of things. And if you haven't seen a lot of the patch notes that were revolved around this, I'll leave a link down in the description. But the viable builds that you guys were utilizing at the end of the original base game are still going to be viable now, as I did tend to run my anomaly build, Technomancer, to go through the main storyline process, and it was still pretty damn easy, and I think that would be my only complaint. It's for a game which was on a difficulty level which was quite high for a lot of players back when the game originally launched, and I'm not making a joke on the login screen. This game felt a little bit more so that you could enjoy the story rather than actually being able to be challenged throughout the process of getting through the story. I didn't really come across many things that I couldn't kill on my own, and there wasn't many things that really challenged me as an individual player, let alone if you were to go in there with the group. Now, the scaling does obviously happen when you go in with a group, but is it going to be enough to make this game difficult at any stretch? No, definitely not. And I didn't even have my main character that has got everything on it. I was given a preloaded character originally, which had quite a few bits, and I had to model and build my own build from the loot that I was kind of obtaining along the way. But this does all lead to one big cycle, and that is the end game. And actually this revolves around loot, farming, and all of that good stuff quite bloody heavily. Now, when I look into exactly what it is that is the most important sides of it, the brand new Apocalypse weapons are pretty much the most mental thing that I've seen inside of Outriders for a little while now. They do run in the epic and legendary variant types, and they have an additional mod on side of the weapons. These work very, very well, although you can still obviously only attune and change up the first 2 mod slots that you would be in there, and it means that you can only change one of those 2. So making a build would really depend on getting a god roll weapon and making sure that you can utilize it to your standard. But these things right here are pretty mental. Like, I'm really impressed with the way that they've issued the brand new weapons and the way that it all really orientates around the whole new armor set. And if there's one thing you guys are going to find is that loot farming is going to be something which is so heavily done inside of this game, then the end game is a lot more enjoyable than what it used to be. So much so that I can definitely see that this was where their focus was when working on Worldslayer. As we all know, in the original base game in Outriders, there was a lot of problems with the end game looping cycle, with challenge tiers instead of the expedition that had a time cap limit. Once they released that time gate limit, there was then no challenge. Although the time gates were a little bit frustrating, it definitely gave a bit more of a challenge aspect to it and kind of made you need to push through a lot faster. Now with this new end game, you just don't have that same aspect, and I don't want to dive into the end game too much inside of this video, mainly because I can't show any content of it really, but it's just something that you guys will need to get into. This is something we are going to be covering in a video later on tonight, so hopefully you guys will be there for that. But this is something that you really need to focus on the basis of, before you buy this is going to take a lot of time. There is going to be a lot of repetitions, there is going to be a lot of loot farming, and this is just going to be to make up your generic build for that god roll tier listing. Obviously, in between everything that we've discussed so far, there is a lot more entailed, and this was just a brief description of what it is that you guys could expect and what I would be rating this at if I was to say whether you should buy it or not, on the basis of whether you've ever played Outriders, and if you have played Outriders based on the experience that you had this time last year, which for the record we all know based on my content was not a very good experience. This time round, I had very little frame issues, I had very little lag issues, connectivity problems were just non-existent for me anymore, although have heard that people like SkillUp did suffer from a little bit of rubber banding and some connectivity issues and stuff like that, and desync on the audios, but I didn't personally experience that. So we're going to see exactly where this goes over ongoing weeks, and hopefully the ongoing days will get a load more information based on the release and drop numbers as to whether you guys should be pre-purchasing or even purchasing after the release date happens. Now that's all we've got time for today, and this was my personal intake. For me, as a rating out of 10, I'd have probably rated this at about a 7.5 to an 8. Although quite a low grade rating for a lot of people, this for me was a lot better than the initial release and could genuinely rebirth the likes of Outriders for the future of looter shooters. This isn't quite a No Man's Sky turnaround, but this is pretty damn close. Now, if you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe with post notifications turned on. Thank you so much again for watching, guys. I appreciate all your faces, and as always, up until the next time, I'll see you in the clouds.